The People's Business is made possible by our partners, Solar Dynamics, the most efficient energy systems.
Good evening and welcome to the People's Business on this Whit Sunday. Today's topic, the Suriname-Barbados Agreement, an update. The agreement we're talking about, the Strategic Dialogue and Cooperation Platform, which was signed between Barbados and Suriname some 2 years ago. To discuss with me this evening the update on that said platform are Suriname's Foreign Affairs, International Business and International Cooperation Minister, Albert Ramdin, along with Barbados' Special Envoy to Guyana and Suriname, Ms. Alphea Wiggins. I wish to welcome you both to the program.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wendy.
Now, when we come back, as you know, our viewers, we will have calls a little later in the program. But when we come back, we'll get right into it to find out how this trade and political agreement is going. The People's Business will be back in a bit. And we're back. We're speaking with Minister Ramdin as well as Special Envoy Wiggins. Now, if I can get both of you to just briefly summarize for me what this strategic platform on dialogue and cooperation really addresses for both countries. Minister Ramdin?
Thank you very much. Indeed, this strategic dialogue and cooperation platform is simply meant to strengthen the relations between the Republic of Suriname and Barbados. And this is in the areas of political and diplomatic consultations. Secondly, in regard to some functional areas where we can help each other technically. It could be in the area of education, health, and other technical areas. Thirdly, is to promote business to business contacts. And lastly, it's to promote people to people contact, especially in the area of tourism, student exchanges. And with regard to private sector, we are all, both countries are part of CARICOM, so there is no internal tariff, and we can export to each other's market, and with that benefit the people of both countries.
Okay. And for you, Ms. Wiggins?
Yes, Minister Ramdin broad areas very well. And of course, in order to delve deeper into those areas, we have agriculture, which is a big component of the strategic dialogue platform for cooperation that we would assign. And I would say to you that during COVID, in terms of the collaboration between the countries, that we shared pharmaceuticals with each other, the bananas and limes never stop coming. And Suriname and Barbados had built up a real loving business trading relationship between the two countries. And of course, we would have led, I would have taken several private sector persons to Suriname to drill down further on these topics in terms, because sometimes you have to move these things off the paper and and definitely make sure that you on the ground and do the work that has to be done. Because once these agreements are signed, you then have to go on the ground. And technically speaking, that's what I do. So I would have led several private sector delegations to Suriname. Indeed, the Prime Minister had voted in 2022 that that was our third visit in 4 years to Suriname. And since then, I have had other private sector persons going to Suriname to do business, and we have been doing a lot of business.
Okay, so you've identified already for me some of the benefits that we have realized since the signing. Now, you spoke to doing business, and I'm just wondering from you, Minister Ramdin, has it been a fair two-way street? Are you getting Barbadians offering you products that Suriname is interested in, whilst you all send your agricultural commodities? We'll get to the airlift issue a little later. But how has the relationship been going for you and your people in Suriname since it began?
As I said, the relationships are great between the two countries, and especially at the highest political levels. What we need to see now is that this relationship translates between the private sector. And I see a lot of connection and communication between the private sector, especially in terms of agriculture, from Suriname to Barbados. And then from the other side, we do have from Barbados side manufactured goods which could be imported in Suriname. There must be complementarity, and I believe that once we have more business missions coming to each other's countries, more sectors can be get involved. In fruit production, for instance, we can provide um, many bananas, but have been mentioned already, but also other products like dragon fruit, which we can supply at far cheaper prices. And then in the area of fish and shrimps, and and then in terms of Barbados's input in our the blackberry sheep, and also um, processing meat, which can be delivered in bulk out of Suriname.
Okay. Now, you mentioned a fruit there that is a high ticket item, dragon fruit.
Right,
No,
true.
I had no idea that Suriname produced
Of
dragon
course.
fruit. So, in terms of the transport, in terms of getting the commodity here, etc., has the presence of that airline and the linkages in terms of sea transport, etc., have those been strengthened to the point whereby our retailers could rely possibly on a weekly supply of this fruit as opposed to importing from North American regions, etc., where it now comes from?
Wendy, before
Yeah,
you
we are.
ask to
Yeah, go
the
ahead, Althea.
Go ahead, Miss
to
Wiggins, and
get
then
to
we'll
the
get back to that.
actual airline bringing it, dragon fruit and many other things are pending. So it's dragon fruit, passion fruit, lemons, pineapples. Those are some of the fruit that are pending before an imported Barbados can import those delicious fruit from Suriname or any other country. They have to apply for an import license, and that import license has to be approved by the MPPO in Barbados and Suriname. And the Ministry of Agriculture, being the competent authority, has to approve that application first before the fruits can be imported to Barbados. Because, as you're aware, there are many pests and diseases in all countries of the world. So the Ministry of Agriculture has to do a risk analysis and verify that there are no pests associated with the fruit. The bananas and the limes have already been approved. We have approved in principle, but the MPPO in both countries have to approve, and all the sanitary and phytosanitary protocols have to be in place. And that is important for importers to know.
Okay, so let's see which importers are going to step up to the mark and start to make those things come into play. Because I think for us, Minister Ramdin, at the end of the day, that's one of the things Barbados is concerned about, being able to get certain commodities at a greater, well, lesser price, but to provide greater value to the consumers at the end of the day.
Absolutely, and I fully share what my friend there said about that there must be compliance with the phytosanitary measures on both ends. Um, this is an international practice, so I hope we can overcome those issues very quickly and that we can match businesses with each other. For instance, the dragon fruit is in season everywhere in Suriname, you can see it. And because it's so massively present, the price is very competitive. And I'm sure the Barbadian people will benefit from that as well. This is just one. The other fruits mentioned earlier, passion fruit and coconut and pineapples and so on. So there is a great opportunity there. Also in terms of the processing, which I believe also can be done as a subset in Barbados itself.
Okay. Now, if I can come back to you now, Ms. Wiggins, in terms of the business to business meetings, I remember during AgroFest, you had set up ahead of the expo for a number of businesses out of Suriname to come down and, be a part of the exhibition, but also to do a number of meetings ahead of it. What was the outcome for you all in terms of those B2Bs?
I would say that those meetings, as you know, at the time, it included mostly countries from Central and Latin America, which would have been Suriname, Guyana, Brazil, Venezuela, Cuba, and Brazil. And those business meetings were very, very successful. And I can speak specifically for Suriname because earlier you mentioned Suriname Airways, and I can tell you that has made a significant difference in terms of the trading relationship with Barbados. Because originally, when the Suriname delegation would come for AgroFest, they had issues with load capacity. They had to get on a 10-seater aircraft with just a few fruits and vegetables in their suitcases. Now, we have Suriname Airways that has flown into Barbados since the 20th of December, and the load capacity of Suriname Airways 160 persons and 5,000 kilograms of cargo. So there's no excuse now in relation to the trade between the two countries. And they're very anxious because I would have spoken to several of those businessmen. Minister Ramdin knows that I was just in Suriname for the NCS conference, and I had several meetings. I met with Minister Ramdin, obviously, several times, and many of the business persons there. And we were looking at various aspects of business, of doing business in Barbados. I must also tell you, one of the largest companies in Suriname, they want to contribute to the food terminal here in Barbados. They want to be part of the investment in that terminal. So I can tell you, the business people in Suriname are excited about doing business in Barbados. I can tell you that I meet with them often. They're on the phone often, they're on email. So I'm in constant contact, and of course, with Minister Ramdin and Minister Suyan, the Minister of Agriculture, both in Suriname and Barbados.
Okay. If I can come back to you now, Minister Ramdin, on the whole issue of farming in Suriname. Have any of our people taken up that offer?
As far as I know, at this point, there has been no active engagement on that. But I must honestly say that I don't have the full answer. My colleague from agriculture, who participated in the AgriFest a couple of months ago, may have some more information. But we are open to Bajan companies willing to establish an agricultural farming uh, company here in Suriname for export purposes. That is an offer that still stands.
Okay. And
And
just to
in
stick a
terms of
pin,
the transport, I believe that Suriname Airways is just waiting to be able to fill their cargo compartment in the plane for flights to Barbados.
okay.
So I think everything is aligned very well, and soon, very soon, we will be able to demonstrate um, that this agreement can work to the benefit of both countries.
Just a question for you, Minister Ramdin. How easy would it be for me to be able to set up that company? What are some of the agencies I have to go through in your country? Can I start my process online, or do I have to come to Suriname first in order to get things started?
Well, there are a couple of things. First of all, we welcome certainly um, the Barbadian companies to visit Suriname. I think it's always better to do that. And of course, through virtual means, meetings can be held. The first thing they need to do is to contact our Suriname Investment and Trade Agency. And that is the vehicle through which we will guide these companies, and they will be put in contact with the Ministry of Agriculture if it's about agriculture, with the Chamber of Commerce. We can facilitate business to business meetings with potential um, partners here. I recommend that companies partner with Surinamese companies, and as such, they can establish a company very quickly, register it at the Chamber of Commerce, and from there on, it's a matter of getting all the other details and logistics in order. Um, but I would certainly recommend a visit to Suriname and and speak to some of the colleagues in the same field.
Okay, so it's better to have that direct connection so we can first get our feet wet, feel things out, and see how we can move forward in the process.
When, Wendy, if I may,
Yes.
Sure,
I
Ms.
may,
Wiggins.
um, in terms of you asked about the doing business in Suriname. You know, Invest Barbados, if an overseas company wants to do business in Barbados, you go to Invest Barbados. In Suriname, go through their agency, which is called CETA, and Invest Barbados has been working very closely with CETA in terms of setting up the protocols for doing business in both countries.
Okay.
Secondly, in terms of the agricultural project, President Santoki has offered 300,000 acres of land, not only to Barbadians, to anyone who wants to come to Suriname and do farming. So people have to be willing to take up that offer so that the same way that they have the black belly sheep with being raised in another country and the meat is sent back to Barbados. We want to do it with the watermelons, the dragon fruit, the limes, the lemons, ginger, everything.
Okay.
So he has offered 300,000 acres of land to do farming in Suriname.
Okay, we're going to take a commercial break here, and when we come back, we'll invite some callers and we'll talk more about these offers that are on the table. And I also want to look at tourism because, yes, we have the airline, and yes, we're looking to move the produce, but let's also move the people and our cultures so we better understand each other. The People's Business will be back in a moment. And if you've just joined us, you are viewing The People's Business. Tonight, we're discussing the Suriname-Barbados Agreement, the Strategic Dialogue and Cooperation Platform with Minister Albert Ramdin and Barbados Special Envoy to Guyana and Suriname, Alphea Wiggins. Now, remember, tonight you can call us. Our call numbers are 228-5562, 228-5563. If you might be interested in getting access to this 300,000 acres that's been made available by the president, or if you want to do business with Suriname. So call us 228-5562, 228-5563. Before we went off, Minister Ramdin, we started on the conversation of the tourism. We don't just want that plane for the movement of the cargo. We also want to be able to move our people because both countries have rich and diverse cultures, and we would want to immerse ourselves in each other's space so we get, closer as a region. We are CARICOM. So how open is Suriname in terms of welcoming our tourists, having special charters set up for us, all of the tours? I know Alphea will let you know we're more than happy to welcome the Surinamese. We saw quite a few during AgriFest, and they would have done more than just the agricultural exhibit. But in terms of Barbadians coming to Suriname, how open are you to that? And would you say the language might necessarily be a barrier, or your people speak just as fluent English as they do Dutch?
Thank you very much, Ms. Wendy, and I'm very happy that you raised this matter of people to people and understanding each other better. This is so important in our region. Last week we had a meeting of the Association of Caribbean States in Suriname, and this has been one of the most important decisions taken to strengthen the connectivity between our countries, not only in terms of sea and air routes, but especially in terms of tourism. So we welcome absolutely our friends, brothers and sisters from Barbados. At any point in time, there is a regular flight between Suriname and Barbados. And in terms of language, absolutely no problem. Most of the Surinamese speak one or two languages, some three, four. We have some domestic languages, but we have also people who speak Spanish and Portuguese, but certainly English. So that should not be an issue at all. As you know, as part of being members of CARICOM, we don't need visa. We just need a valid passport and some medical documents, often the yellow fever card document, and that's enough to visit Suriname.
Okay.
We do have also sufficient facilities of different types to host guests. Um, our country is enormously diverse in terms of ethnicity, but highly tolerant and peaceful. So we embrace all cultures,
Okay.
all traditions, cuisine. We have five national dishes in our view, and those come from different parts of the world. That diversity in culture, art, music, language makes it very interesting. And let me say that Surinamese are very hospitable and welcoming. So we certainly would like to see not only Barbadians coming to Suriname, but also all the other millions of guests who visit Barbados to do a trip to Suriname, a weekend trip, because we have absolutely unique interior with rapids, large rivers,
So the environmental
and
tourist has a lot to look forward to.
the flora fauna with forestry, everything. So you can
Okay.
get everything here. So I mean, from that point of view, I think we can develop very quickly
Okay.
closer connections.
We have a caller on the line who has a question to pose. Good evening to you.
Hi, good evening.
Yes,
we hear
could you
each
speak a
other?
little louder for me?
Okay. No, I said good evening. Okay. For a long time, I have been advocating the growing of the production of aloe vera here in Barbados. I know Suriname is very prolific. Let me say good night to my cousin there, Alphea. Alphea, this is Courtney. Yeah, I have been advocating this for a very long time, and and I know Barbados has the right soil, because we produce aloe vera here, and it's growing very, very widely across Barbados in private homes. So I'm just wondering, seeing that Suriname is very prolific in providing aloe vera, and aloe vera is used in many, many medicines here, products and that type of thing. So I'm just wondering if Barbados and Suriname has any plans of, forging partnerships to produce aloe vera here in Barbados, and which could maybe supplement the cane industry.
Okay, he's
Yeah,
asking about the growth
the
of
aloe
aloe
vera.
vera and if there's a possibility of the two countries collaborating on it and also to helping to supplement sugarcane. Both of you could take a.
Yes, I would say definitely both countries can cooperate on that project. And as you know, we have the food science center at Newton, where you can bring all your cottage industries, whatever it is you want, and it is processed at the food science center here at Newton, and then we can export it. So there is a lot of collaboration between the two countries. The thing that we want to emphasize there is the large tracts of land that Suriname has. And as I stated before, the president has offered 300,000 acres in order to cultivate, to grow sheep, to do whatever you want to do. So I wanted to emphasize that there is collaboration. The relationship between Barbados and Suriname is so outstanding. You spoke earlier about the tourism industry, and I can tell you, when I go to Suriname, I feel like I'm in Barbados. I am so welcome there. They welcome me in such an outstanding way. Minister Ramdin will tell you. Everyone, they call you by name, especially the hotels that I go to. They lay out the red carpet for you. But yes, the National Transformation Initiative has plans to train persons in the tourism sector in Suriname. I can tell you the welcome that I get and the service that I get is second to none.
Okay, so how do you feel about
May I
the
may I
aloe
add,
vera,
Ms.
Minister
Wendy?
Ramdin? Go ahead.
Yes, I no, I believe aloe vera is not product which we grow massively, much more at home. But but certainly, if there is a market for it and the soil is right, I see great potential in doing that together. These are exactly the products which we can seek to join forces on. But I want to indicate also that in Suriname we have a very well developed horticulture. So I know that for the hotels in Barbados, there are many flowers, orchids, especially um, that you need, and we that is another area where we can work very closely together in having Barbadians or in joint venture with Surinamese companies produce those flowers and export them. Given the fact that it's a short haul from Suriname to Barbados, because it's a fresh product, I think we can supply that instead of getting it outside of the region at higher prices.
Okay, that's
I
another
can
area as
support
well.
I can support what Minister Ramdin just said in terms of the cut flowers because I would have spoken, as you know, to Mr. Matthew, and I put him on to the Barbados Hotel and Tourism Association in terms of importing cut flowers to the Barbados Horticultural Society. So those projects are ongoing.
Okay, so that's wonderful to know that there's other stuff in the works. It's not just the direct food production, the bananas and the pineapples and so on, but we're also looking at the other things that can be grown. Um, what about grasses? Basketry, is that a big thing for the Surinamese, the whole handicraft sector? How could Barbados's handicraft sector benefit from it?
Well, we have a very well developed handicraft sector, especially by the indigenous people in the interior, the Maroons and the Amerindians. They have a wide range of products which can be offered for touristic purposes, for sure. And but it doesn't stay with baskets and the we also have jewelry, locally made jewelry from fruits or all those things can be added to the mix of domestic indigenous handicrafts.
Okay, but what about raw materials like leathers and the various grasses, etc.? Might Suriname have those available for us that we can import at lower cost?
Was it feathers or leather?
Leather.
No, leather. No, there is no industry as such with regard to leather.
Okay. Well, maybe that's something we can look at once we start having our cows there. Because
Exactly.
300,000
Yes.
acres is a lot to be considered, you know. And you spoke to the fact that the transport is so much better now. We spoke a lot about the air transport, Minister Ramdin and Special Envoy Wiggins, but what about the sea? We're talking about ferry services across the region. Is it likely that we might be getting one from Suriname too?
You mean
A
a
ferry?
vessel?
Yeah.
Yes. There are companies which can provide that, but as it goes with businesses, you need the goods first, and then so this will be much more a collaboration between the private sector in the shipping industry and those who need cargo to be shipped. But again, it's we have shipping companies that go into Curacao, Trinidad, Guyana. I don't see why Barbados could not be added to that if there is sufficient traffic for that.
Okay, well, that's good to know. We're going to get ready to take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk more about the platform, how we're looking to strengthen it, what other elements can be added to it at this stage, etc. Remember, you can also call us 228-5562, 228-5563. We'll be back in a moment. And we're back. We're speaking with Minister Ramdin of Suriname, Albert Ramdin, who is the Minister of Foreign Affairs, International Business and International Cooperation, and Barbados' Special Envoy to Guyana and Suriname, Alphea Wiggins. Now, before we went to the break, we were talking about the possibilities of a ferry, but that being a business-to-business area. And what I want to find out from you now, Special Envoy, is in terms of the uptake of the offers from Suriname, are we looking to channel it more toward the whole business-to-business cooperation and government just serve as the facilitator?
In terms of business, it is always good to have a partner. And if you have a business partner in Suriname, what we would say local contact, depending on the company or country that you speak about, that is always so. If we would just go back to the ferry service, you might have heard in the news that a ferry service, a private sector ferry service, will begin shortly. It was scheduled to launch towards the ending of the year, and it does involve two countries, Trinidad, Barbados, Guyana, and Suriname. There is enough trading between those four countries to warrant a ferry service. And what I would say to you, that even though you have SLM that takes cargo, the information coming to me on the ground when it was in Suriname was that it is more expensive by airplanes than to use a ferry service. Because technically speaking, it takes 3 days shipping from Suriname to Barbados. So there really is no problem in terms of the trading and the moving between the two countries, and to have a private sector ferry service augmenting the relationship with the four countries, it will definitely improve the trading relationships, and it will help us achieve that 25 by 25 goal a lot faster.
Exactly, because remember that is one of the targets that is in mind to reduce our food import bill by next year by some 25%. Um, do you think we've started to make a dent in it? We spoke about the bananas, etc., but do you think in terms of what we're getting out of Suriname now that we're starting to see some headway?
Yes, we are starting to see headway, particularly from the perspective of the applications for import licenses. And once we can get a lot of the produce out of Suriname, we then would not have to go out of CARICOM per se, because a lot of the fruits and vegetables, as you know, come from Costa Rica. And even though it is close in terms of Latin America, we definitely, it's the CARICOM project that we're dealing with, and definitely for sure, we are going to see those decrease in prices because the market will have, the demand will be higher, the supply will be higher. And that is exactly what we want to do in terms of achieving that goal.
Okay, you wanted to weigh in on the 25 by 25, Minister Ramdin?
Well, yes, sure. First of all, I think that we have to put this in the broader picture of our own independence in terms of food security in the region. And I believe a lot more can be done and should be done. And this requires our private sector in the region, and not only between Suriname and Barbados, but large conglomerates as well of companies and retail, supermarkets, and so on, to work together. I say this because the banking sector has to facilitate this process, and that can only happen if there is a critical mass to develop more agriculture products. Um, if I may mention, the past couple of days we had the Jamaican Trade Mission here. One of the large countries is sourcing coconut water from outside the region, out of Southeast Asia. We can provide that, but because of lack of business contact and this process of this platform did not happen. They produce pepper, fresh pepper, in an African country, while Suriname has a tradition to to produce pepper in sufficient volumes, and in that case export. So all our businesses should look at the 25 by 25 rule as how can we individually reduce that import bill, food import bill in the region. And I think it requires some additional collaboration and maybe also a little bit of a push by the leaders. If I may add one thing as I'm speaking, um, an area where there is enormous scope for Barbadian companies to be involved is in the subcontracting with regard to oil and gas. And that is booming in Guyana and soon also in Suriname. So that is not only just in the technical areas, but also in food supplies. And we have decided in Suriname that any company in the region, any company in Barbados who wants to partner with a Surinamese company, set up a company and register with the Chamber of Commerce will be considered by us as local company, as, and so can benefit from the local content rules.
Okay, and that, in terms of the being a local company and recognized as a local company, how would that say benefit in terms of taxation levels, etc.? What are some of the incentives to be gained in terms of business operation from being registered within Suriname as opposed to be trading as an external company?
Yes, well, if you're considered local, that on the basis of our local content policy, that company will be considered to have a preference above others. And others which are not registered as such will not have an opportunity to take part in those. Um, and there are specific rules for this which we are developing. For instance, when it comes to food supplies, that the oil and gas companies, the gold gold mining companies must utilize or for 50% of that business should utilize local companies. So that will provide an advantage. And in turn, there are some fiscal facilities which can be provided as well, but the benefits will be certainly in the non-fiscal area to be able to qualify for contracting.
Okay, so once we are in this space, we can also not only get product back to the Barbados market, but we can also look to put in bids within Suriname of itself.
Absolutely, you become a supplier to the local market.
That's wonderful. So, do you have like a school meals program and things like that that we might be able to supply product to? Because I'm just looking at how lucrative it can be, because I might want to take advantage of some of that 300,000 acres.
I missed your question
No,
for a
no, no.
minute there.
I'm asking you in terms of the viability of the contracts and the types of contracts you have. I'm asking like if there's something like a school meals, like a government service where you give meals to your within your health sector, within your school sector, etc., that we can bid for in terms of giving the supplies that those entities would need.
Yes, as part of our social safety net, we provide food baskets as well as school to different schools. I think something like 6,000 school children every day a meal. So it's part of our program in terms of the IMF um, uh, reform program.
Okay, so there is stuff to offer. It's not just a one-way position at all. Both entities, both countries will benefit from this agreement
Absolutely.
and are benefiting. It's just a matter of strengthening and building on that platform at this point in time. Well, just to remind our viewers, you might be able to get in one or two quick calls, 228-5562, 228-5563. We are about to go to break. When we return, I'll have Miss Wiggins weigh in on the Barbadian companies looking to take that up and how Invest Barbados here may have been helping in trying to make that progress. The People's Business will be back in a bit. And we're back with the People's Business. We're talking Suriname and Barbados, the agreements. Now, Ms. Wiggins, in terms of facilitating what Minister Ramdin would have spoken to, how integral a role can Invest Barbados play in terms of helping some of our business people who might be interested in taking up and getting access to Suriname?
Barbados is playing a tremendous role in terms of both persons coming in to invest in Barbados, as well as Barbadians who want to go out in and invest in Suriname. I would also say to you that in terms of the businesses together, you have a company like Barbados in Suriname. This is the largest supplier of pork and pig and pork products in Suriname. And I can tell you, we were in contact with that company who introduced us to a geneticist who does artificial insemination of pigs. And he's from Holland, Amsterdam, they would know him. And they wanted to collaborate with him and Barbados to improve the supply of pork and pork products in Barbados, as well as to, let's say, fatten the pig. Because the pigs in Suriname are the most beautiful, lovely looking pigs I have ever seen. And a lot of science goes into the raising of those pigs. And we had started collaboration with Suriname and their geneticists from Holland in terms of pork production and in our agricultural sector.
Okay.
Then we have Whisper, who produces rice, another very large producer in Suriname, willing to work with businesses in Barbados. And I can tell you because Minister Ramdin just alluded to the ACS conference that we were both at in Suriname, and we would have had a lovely presentation. Mrs. Joe from the Caribbean Private Sector Organization and all the plans that they have for investment in Suriname as well as partnering with other countries. And that's where Invest Barbados comes in, as well as CETA in Suriname. So a lot of that collaboration has already started. And if I may also mention, you spoke earlier about education and the terms of meals, providing meals for the school children. We have already discussed that as well because when we were in discussions with those, I mentioned that when the BDF goes out on missions in Barbados in the field, they have these ready to eat meals. And we spoke about that in assistance to Suriname in providing these ready-to-eat meals for their military as well as for their school children. So we would have had that discussion with the Minister of Agriculture. And I tell you, Wendy, I have engaged everybody in Suriname with this strategic dialogue platform. There's a lot of work that is going on the ground. But people have to realize that some of these take time. When you plant a seed, it doesn't grow the same time. It takes a while to mature. And we have a lot of seeds planted between Barbados and Suriname, between Invest Barbados and CETA, between the Ministry of Agriculture Suriname, the Ministry of Agriculture Barbados, the Ministry of Tourism, etc. So there's a lot of work going on.
So the
I'm telling you,
connections are working and working well.
very well, very
Okay.
well.
We are going
And
to take another commercial break quickly. And when we return, we're going to have our parting words in terms of what we're looking and how we're looking to move the platform forward. What's the next step that we're building? We'll be back in a moment. And yes, we are talking about the agreement between Barbados and Suriname. Yes, that strategic dialogue and cooperation platform. And Minister Ramdin, we're getting close to the end. So from you, I want to hear what is it you're looking forward to most in terms of building out this platform even more as we go into the rest of 2024, 2025.
Three things. One, I would like to see as soon as possible an agreement between Barbados Invest and CETA on particular collaboration to strengthen this SDCP mechanism, but especially in the area of business and tourism development. Um, there are some sectors which we did not mention, but I think there is scope for the banking, the the equity sector um, in Barbados to look at opportunities in Suriname. Um, Secondly, what I would like to see is that Prime Minister Motley visits Suriname, and we have pending an invitation to Prime Minister Motley early next year to deliver a keynote in a seminar in a conference that is traditionally done early January. I know you have budget meetings at that time, but we'll find the right time. But it would be great if, together with Prime Minister Motley, a business delegation from Barbados comes to Suriname. And the last one is on tourism. Um, I think we have an opportunity to boost the knowledge about each other very quickly by organizing some special visits from both sides,
Okay.
which I believe could include even exchange of students, so that the relationship between Barbados and Suriname is not only a political one, but one from people to people. If we can achieve these three things rapidly, the rest will follow.
Okay. And quickly from you, Miss Wiggins?
Well, I would say to you that this relationship with Suriname is a very good one. And together with Suriname Perez, let me remind Barbadians and all Caribbean people, if you want to get to Suriname, you come to Barbados, a quick short stop in Georgetown, and you are in Suriname in under 2 hours. Because lots of persons will complain at the same ACS conference in getting to Suriname, not knowing that Suriname is practically flies direct from Barbados to Suriname on a short trip. And Suriname is also a gateway to Latin America because SLM flies to Belém in Brazil. So Suriname is a fantastic country that we're doing business on every level.
Okay.
So I want to assure Minister Ramdin that as this relationship grows better, we are going to ensure that the trade gets better. And while you send in your agricultural products, our limestone will be going to Suriname to nurture your soil so that we can reap the benefits of lovely fruits and vegetables that will be good for our health and our pockets.
Okay. So all around, we are helping each other, making things better, not just for the countries, but also for the citizens ultimately. I want to thank you, Minister Ramdin, Albert Ramdin, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, International Business and International Cooperation in Suriname, as well as Ms. Alphea Wiggins, Barbados Special Envoy to Guyana and Suriname. Thank you both for being on the program. Thank you, our viewers, for tuning in tonight and listening to The People's Business. Here's to greater cooperation between Barbados and Suriname. This has been The People's Business. I'm Wendy Burke.